You are listening to the Becoming the Wealthy You podcast with Jermaine Foley. If you're a woman who makes good money in your career or business, but you're not building wealth like you want to, then you're in the right place. In this podcast, you'll learn how to stop overspending, break free from the cycle of debt, save lots of cash, and become the wealthy woman you were born to be. Let's dive in. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I am so excited because I have Mrs. Jamie Berman here with us, and she is a master certified business coach with a background in spiritual psychology, and she specializes in manifestation and the energetics of money. So you guys, we're going to get into it today. She has coached thousands of clients, helping them change the beliefs and habits and behaviors that were keeping them from making the kind of money they truly desired in their business. Jamie's clients stop under earning, go on to make six figures and beyond in their businesses without overworking or hustling. They come to realize that money isn't something that happens to them, but something they have the power to create. Jamie, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I can't wait for this discussion because we both love this topic.
Yes, I'm so excited. Okay, let's just dive in and start with the big idea here. What does it actually mean to become a woman who keeps money? How is that different from just like being someone who earns money and attracts money? What's the difference?
Totally. And I love this question because I don't think it's talked about enough. And I see so many people trying to solve the problem of becoming wealthier by just making more money. And that's actually not always the key, right? Because I always think of it like this: the skill of making money or creating money or manifesting money is different from the skill of having money. And I think we don't actually become wealthy until we learn really both, right? Or the skill of having money. We have to learn how to actually have it and hold it and expand our capacity to allow it to be. Like I think the skill of having money is about letting it sit. Letting it be still, right? Something that a lot of times as I work a lot with entrepreneurs and high achieving women, and we're not really comfortable just sitting and just being, right? And I see that reflected in not, letting the money circulate out right away. So I think it's really about expanding your capacity for that, of allowing it not only to just sit there and be, but then from there, once you allow that, then you build up enough to where you can go and multiply it. So I think it's really important to learn both skills. And I think they're different skills.
Yes, it's so funny because I think we learn at a very early age that money is just meant to be spent.
Yes.
I was just on the phone with my sister. So of course I'm a money coach. So they always come to me for money advice. Yep. And I don't think they listen all the time, but it's funny because my nephew, who's going into the first grade, she started giving them allowance. And he came to her while we were on the phone. He's like, Mommy, tomorrow I want to go buy this and this and this and this with my $5 you just gave me.
Yep.
And I heard her say, no, honey, you have to get comfortable with having money. I was like, what?
Yeah. I definitely did not learn that growing up.
Exactly. And she was like, I'm learning this too. Your auntie Gigi is teaching me. We all need to learn how to have money. And I was like, they are listening. So to your point, it's an important skill. So was this something you had to learn? Like, how did you get into this?
Yeah. Oh, 1000%. Because my whole thing was always the way that initially, my first skill that I had to learn was actually how to make money and how to create the kind of money that I wanted to. That was like the first skill, because I used to be deep in scarcity, deep in debt, working nonstop, feeling like the only way to make money is to work really, really hard. Well, I worked really, really hard for much of my life, like talking 2 to 3 jobs at once. I knew how to work, right? But I was always just living paycheck to paycheck, just making enough. So the first thing that I actually learned was the power of our mindset in creating money and the power. And that's why I dive into manifestation, because I use a lot of the manifestation principles and I use them to really reprogram my brain and learn that it's not just hard work and effort. It's about what we believe we're capable of, the value that we're putting out into the world, and us just really going after what it is we want, deciding on purpose what we want to make and going for it. So that was the first skill that I learned. And then from there, though, I kept finding that even I remember I hit my first impossible goal, which was $100,000. But at the end of that year, I had literally nothing to show for it. So I was like, wait a minute. I remember whenever I would do these future self exercises back whenever I was like manifesting my first 100K, I was like, well, I thought I was going to feel abundant. My future 100K self feels abundant and has all this money. And it's like,
Yes.
I have nothing to show for it. Right. And I definitely don't feel abundant. So that's when I realized like, okay, it's not just about making money. And for a long time, I tried to solve kind of the issue of not having money by trying to make more of it. But the problem was I would always make more. And then I was still spending more than I was making or spending just about what I was making. So it was so wild, right? Because it still felt like I was living to that paycheck to paycheck life, but I was making a lot of money, right? Like $500,000, but still just breaking even. And that's when I realized that I needed to learn how to have money. And I dove into that work and I realized it was a different skill. And that's when I started actually really looking at my money more carefully, learning about investing, learning about, what percentage do I want to have in reserves, and really setting financial goals around that. And not only having a vision to make X amount in my business, but really having a vision of like, what do I want the full financial landscape to look like? How much do I want to have? What do I want my net worth to be? What do I want to have in either like a savings account or in reserves? And then what do I want to have in my investments, right? Like actually deciding that stuff on purpose. And I realized I can use the same tools of manifestation for that, but I needed a clear vision. And that was what I was missing, was like, I didn't even have a vision of what I wanted to have. And so, of course, I wasn't putting money into those other buckets because I didn't even have them in my mindset. It was always like, just making more will solve it. But that didn't do it. So I learned that for myself first.
That is so good, because I think we have these goals of making a certain amount, but we don't have the goal of, okay, how much do I want to have saved, like liquid cash available to put a cushion between me and life? How much debt do I want to have? Like you might decide you're okay with having some debt, but get clear on what that number is. Also investments and things like that. So what you did was, what I hear you saying is you had that vision for your income and you just applied it to the other areas of money too. And then you were able to do it.
Exactly. I kind of did it in a similar way, but it was like, you just have to decide in advance what you want. And I also think it took me learning a little bit about it, right? We have to educate ourselves. This isn't something we learn in school typically. And I know it's not something that I learned from like my parents growing up. So I didn't really know too much about finances and how it works. I always thought it was like this big, heavy thing that smart people know, or like men in suits know, that like I need to hire someone to help me with. And what I realized actually, as I kind of started diving in, is, oh my God, this is way more simple than I thought.
Yes.
And like, you don't have to know that much. You don't have to have a really high, business degree or anything like that to make it all make sense.
Yes.
And it's actually pretty simple. So that was actually a relief once I stopped avoiding it and just started educating myself a bit. I mean, it's easy to educate yourself too. That's the other thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think where you probably really had it good too was like you had the tools of mindset. So you could coach yourself around, you find yourself overspending, you know how to figure out, okay, why is this happening? And you have all those tools to help you to really change that. But you said something that's really powerful that I want to talk about, because other people may be like, what is Jamie talking about here? You were talking about the power of mindset when it comes to making money. Typically, I think people think, well, I just make what my employer is willing to pay me. Or, if I'm a doctor, this is how much I make. If I'm a pharmacist, this is how much I make. If I'm a real estate agent, it's all, there for me. Yeah, I can work more. I can get a promotion. But what do you mean my mindset determines how much money I can create?
Totally. And I mean, this blew my mind too, because I didn't realize this. And if I had heard that initially, I think I would have been like, huh. But I remember my coach, and I was diving into some of this money work, and I had already learned a lot about manifestation and all of that. But I remember my coach saying, the amount of money that you make is a direct reflection of how you think, right? It's a direct reflection of the thoughts that you think and what you believe. And I was like, huh, what do you mean by that? Right. Because to me, it was like, oh, it's just what people will pay me or what they'll say yes to, or what, like you said, what this job pays. But what I realized actually, because I liked that idea, when I heard it, I thought, oh, well, if this is true, it means that I have some power, right? It felt empowering. It felt like, if this is true, I have some agency over that. I want to have agency over this, right? So that's when I just kind of decided to go on like an experiment and see, okay, if I change my thoughts, can it change my income? Right. And not just thoughts. Of course, we have to change our thoughts. We have to change our feelings. We have to change the way that we show up and the actions that we take. But what I realize is all of that is really driven by what we believe about ourselves, what we believe we're capable of, what we think people will pay for things, what we expect. All of that determines how we feel and how we show up, what actions we take, what we're willing to do. It's all driven by the way that we think. So I started this journey as I picked an impossible goal. My first impossible goal was hitting $100,000. And I was like, what if I do mindset work around my relationship with money every day? Right. And I just look at the thoughts that I'm thinking and really start to look at it. What did I learn about money growing up? What am I believing? What am I thinking right now? Do I think I can hit this goal? Because if I don't think I can, I'm probably not going to pursue it. So I just kind of challenged it and I did an experiment. And turns out the experiment worked because I literally took my business from $14,000 a year to $100,000 a year. And the main thing I did was not the main, but I'll say the foundational thing that I did was really work on my thoughts about money and my thoughts about myself. And so it did show to me and prove that the amount of money that you make is a reflection of what you think is possible, what you think about money. So that's where I realized there's power in that. And that work has been really just a foundational piece of what I've done. And that's also where I've seen it get in the way for people as well, because I mean, there are some people and, they're high achievers. They have the best degrees. They're the best at what they do. They're amazing. They're taking incredible action. They're hustling, but they're not making as much money as the other person over there who's not doing as well, who's not as gifted. Well, what's the difference? One person feels worthy of it. One person feels deserving of it. One person's asking for it. One person's believing it's possible for them and the other one's not. So I think our relationship with money, it really has so much to do with how much we are willing to make.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that so much. Can you give us a sneak peek into some of the exercises you did? Because you said you worked on your money mindset like every day.
I did. So, well, that year I picked an impossible goal. That was, I still do this work, but, that year, what really helped was setting a very audacious goal. So setting something that was really stretchy, that felt out of reach and impossible, because what that did for me was it revealed all of my limiting beliefs. So by stretching myself and saying, could I make $100,000 in my business, doing something I love, doing something that lights me up? And then what that did was reveal all the limitations in my brain of well, I don't know how. I'm not good at selling. No one's going to pay me those kind of prices. I don't know if there's people out there that would pay a life coach for that. And I had to be willing to look at all of those and challenge them. So it really helped to reveal what was in the way for me. So that's one way of doing it, is to set a stretchy goal that you feel is out of reach for you, because that will help reveal all of your brain's limitations. And then from there, what I did, like I actually, since I'm, a certified master coach, I learned how to challenge my thoughts. I learned how to coach myself, but I did that and I hired a life coach. So I actually paid, I didn't have money at the time because I was making $14,000 a year. I was in the red in my business. And so I decided to sell my car to pay for my coach. And I was like, please challenge me on this area. I really want you to help me challenge my thoughts about money and help me see it in a new way. Because I think it's really helpful to coach yourself. And it's great when you're a coach and you know how to challenge your thoughts. But then we have blind spots too, right? There's things that we don't see, or we just think are facts, or it's so hard to see another way. So by actually having a coach, that was a massive, massive game changer. And I know I wouldn't have gotten there without having that support and being willing to receive it, invest in myself, and really go on the journey with my coach and be committed with that intention of changing the way that I see money and what I believe is possible for myself. So that was a huge game changer for me. It's just having that support.
I hope you're enjoying today's episode. I wanted to take a quick pause to share something special. If you're a woman who makes good money, but you feel like you should be further along financially, and money is the one area you just can't seem to figure out, I invite you to book a one-to-one money coaching consultation with me. During this call, I'll design a personalized 3-part plan specifically for you, so that you can start making real financial progress quickly if you decide to join me in my one-to-one money coaching program. To book your consultation, simply visit jermainefoley.com/consult. That's Jermaine with a G, foley.com/consult, or click the link in the show notes to sign up. Now let's get back to the episode. That is awesome. That is so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So with that, you've coached thousands of clients. What are some of the most common beliefs, since we're talking about money beliefs, what are some of the most common beliefs or patterns you see in women who struggle to hold on to money, even though they make good money?
Yeah. Well, I would say, okay, so one is kind of what you said, is you had mentioned money is meant to be spent. So I see that a lot, where it's like we have to rewrite the purpose of money from our upgraded, wealthy version of us. We can't just take what we learned growing up. We have to say, well, what is the purpose of money for me now? So one of the blocks is definitely just carrying old past things that we learned growing up, right? Like money is meant to be spent. Or another one we hear a lot, kind of like if you study manifestation or the energetics of money is meant to be circulated, which can be helpful for people who are afraid of spending. But it's like, that's not the only purpose for money is to be circulated. That's one purpose, right? That's one portion of money that is meant to be circulated. So really giving yourself a reason why you would want to hold on to some money. And I think that's really important. I think it's not thought about, and we don't know why. Another huge reason, I think, is because a lot of people have this connotation that people who are wealthy are greedy, or they're mean, or they're wrong, or it's just not good. Like they have some kind of association that wealthy people are bad. Wealthy people are evil, a negative connotation to what wealthy means. And of course, we like deep in our soul want to be good people. So if we have some kind of like subconscious connotation with wealth that it's wrong, it's greedy, it's not for people like me, we will unconsciously avoid it. So we can make all the money, but we will not hold on to it. We will not allow ourselves to be wealthy. Right. So that's definitely another money block for sure. And I think the work around that is really leaning into this idea, what if I could be a good person and have money? And to start finding expanders, look for people out in the world who are wealthy and who are amazing human beings. And to start seeing that you can be a good person who is wealthy. You can be generous and wealthy. You can be kind and compassionate and loving and wealthy. And it doesn't mean it's taking away from someone else, right? That's another money block, as if I have money, someone else is going to have less. And we're just seeing money in the wrong context, because money doesn't work like that. It's not this concrete, solid thing that's like this pie where I take one slice and someone else has less. It's not concrete, right? Money is flowing. It's energetic. It's most of the money in the world is just data. It's just numbers and accounts, right? Most of the world, most of money is not even physical anymore. So it's recognizing that if I have more, it doesn't mean that that person that's suffering over there has less. And by me not letting myself have more, it doesn't help that person. So I think seeing that it doesn't really work in that way. And in fact, if you allow yourself to have more, you can be more generous. You can put it towards your values. You can put it towards things that matter. And maybe you can have a bigger impact by allowing yourself to have more. Maybe you can do more good in the world that way. So it's a lot of these kinds of reframes. And I could go on and on. I can tell you more if you want, but these are some of the big ones that I see.
Yeah.
I'll mention one more that's really common, is that if I have money, people will take advantage of me. It's that fear. Or it's going to be a lot to manage, right? Who am I to manage this? And so it feels very heavy just visualizing even being someone who has the money. It's like, I don't want to deal with the family members that might come after me. I don't want to deal with managing it. It just all feels like too much. And that we just have to clean that up. And like I always say, what I realized is actually the opposite is true. Like having less money and always thinking about where money's going to come from and trying to figure things out, that's heavy. Yeah. Not having enough money is heavy. It's overwhelming. It's complicated. It takes a lot more energy than having money. And you can get people to help you and support you in the financial management of it, right? And then in terms of family members, it's just about setting boundaries and knowing that you can say yes to what you feel aligned with. You can say no to what you feel aligned with, and just being solid within yourself there. And I think so often we have these ideas of what it's going to be like, and we have all of these fears, but most of those never even come about. Most of those are not even real. So yeah.
So good. So one of the things that I wanted to just share something that I think about those things. So when, money is the root to all evil, that whole thing. I like to think money is the root to all good. Because it really is. Like, you can't be generous. You can't give to the poor. You can't build orphanages in Africa or wherever you want to build them, or in your hometown, without money. So it's the root to all good. And then the other one is the pie thing. Like, I just want my piece of the pie. I like to think we all get our own pie. Yeah. And you can make it as big as you want or as small as you want.
Yes.
And so if that's the case, then I can't take your pie because it's your pie. And it's like there's boundaries around the pies. Nobody can take anybody else's pie. We all get our own, and we get to decide how big it's going to be.
I love these. They're so good.
Steal them.
I am.
Because it helps people to like really break free from all of that gunk. And I think the family one is big too. Like, and I love how you just said, you got to set some boundaries. There used to be this sitcom. It wasn't a sitcom. It was like a drama called Being Mary Jane. And she was the successful one of the family. Yeah. And everybody would always come to her, for money and things like that. And so someone wrote a blog post on the show, and they came up with this amazing idea. They said, how about you decide if this is something you want to do, because most people do want to help when help is needed.
Absolutely. Yep.
What you do is you set aside a certain amount of money each month. You don't tell them about this money. You just have this money set aside, and there's a boundary around it. There's an amount that you're willing to give. Yep. And if people come, that's what you pull from. And if you don't have it, if it's gone, you're done.
I love that. That's awesome. There's so many things we could do. I love that. I've never heard that, but I love it. It's so true. And
Hmm.
another one for me that's been so helpful is just wholeheartedly believing in the other person's resourcefulness. So feeling like
Hmm.
I don't have to be the one to say yes. I believe in your resourcefulness, and me believing in your
Yes.
resourcefulness is going to get you so much further than if I just keep giving money, right? If
Yeah,
it's a
for sure.
pattern, especially. So there's people that in my family that I've maybe given to in the past, but I set a boundary and said no. And it's been the best thing ever because that's actually allowed them to figure it out for themselves and to grow financially.
So good. It's like that saying, give a man a fish, they'll eat for
Yep.
a day. Teach them how to fish, they'll eat for a lifetime. And I love
100%.
that. So good.
It's true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Awesome. I feel like we touched on so much already, which is amazing. But you talk some about like nervous system work and identity. So a lot of my listeners make good money, but they still feel stuck. Why do you think that happens? And how does our identity and like nervous system play into that?
Totally. I think a lot of what we talked about already plays into that. But I think the reason it's like if we grew up with an identity of, I need to struggle, we can keep that if we don't notice it and question it, right? Like, I'm someone who struggles, or I need to struggle, or I work hard for my money. I need to work hard for it. We will hold on to that identity and prove it true. Right. So we have to be willing to kind of evaluate, say, what's the identity that I learned growing up, whether it's around money or around what it takes to make money? And is there something that I'm still carrying? And to ask ourselves that, we just have to kind of look within and get curious. And also just notice, have you allowed yourself to see yourself as someone who is wealthy? It's stepping into the wealthy identity. And I know that I didn't do that initially. And that's because I thought, I'm not someone who's wealthy. That's not what I saw growing up, right? Like, I didn't identify it. I'm like, I'm this just blonde girl who loves coaching and femininity, and I love spirituality and manifestation. And I wear like flowy dresses all the time. I'm like, what I associated with wealth was like, again, a man in a suit, right? Or a woman in like a suit. And I'm like, that's not me. I'm not like stiff and very organized, and I don't wake up at 5 a.m. and all of that. And so I didn't allow myself to say and see myself that someone like me could be wealthy. And I
Mhm.
remember making that shift and having that realization that I wasn't seeing myself as someone who could be wealthy. And that was huge because I was like, why am I not seeing that? That makes no sense. And what if I could be an example of what is possible?
Mhm.
And what if I could also look for examples of people like me who have created wealth, right? Who are maybe similar, have some of the same values or whatever. So I think a lot of times it's just the willingness to give ourselves permission to to put ourselves in that role and to see ourselves as that. And in order to do that, there's two things that also have to happen. You have to feel safe.
Mhm.
And that has to do with, I think sometimes it's around feeling safe having money, feeling like you can handle it, feeling like it's going to be okay. It's not going to be this heavy burden, right? Some of the things we already talked about. And then the other piece of it is that you have to see it as, I can be someone who's a good person and have money, right?
Yeah.
Because if we're associating, again, like if we're associating a wealthy person with greedy or bad, we're not going to want to put ourselves in that context.
Right.
So I think create in terms of nervous system regulation, it's creating safety around that.
For
Can I
sure.
feel safe being wealthy? How can I align my nervous system and every cell of my being with feeling safe and having lots of money in my account, right? And so sometimes even doing meditations or visualizations where you stretch yourself and see a big number in your account and you really work on feeling safe having that, right? Associating safety with that and associating you really shining your light in an even bigger way and doing even more good in the world with that money. So that's how I would say you can start regulating to it and working with your nervous system that might unconsciously feel unsafe with it or feel like it's wrong to have. So I think a combination of some of that mindset work and then the nervous system regulation can be so, so helpful.
Absolutely. And then piggybacking off of what you said around people believing that they have to work hard, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things I talk about all the time is that we don't have to choose between living our life and building wealth.
Yeah.
So, and I know you've helped your clients stop overworking and hustling to make money. So how do you help them to do that without going to the extreme of just, doing nothing and just sitting around?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really about the feeling that's driving your actions. So, right, I think when we're hustling, hustling tends to come from scarcity. That feeling of scarcity. We do all the things to make something happen and try to force it into existence or make it happen. It usually comes from a place of either doubt or scarcity. And that's why when we say hustling, we feel depleted. It feels draining. It is tiring, and it oftentimes leads to burnout. So it's not that you're not going to take action anymore towards these things to make more money, but it's about the energy it's riding on. So if you're in scarcity, it's going to drive you to maybe do a bunch of things you don't want to do, say yes to things that are not in alignment, forcing yourself to do things and make it happen. And again, you will crash eventually. But if you want to, the way that I think about it is making money with more ease and without working so hard is about working in alignment, really leaning into, like, the way that I see it is, what is my soul here to do? What am I here for? What is my purpose? What's the intention of the work that I'm doing? And does this feel in alignment? And when something feels aligned, you can take a lot of action still, but on the other end of that action, you're lit up. You are inspired. It feels more energizing. I could coach all day and I feel more lit up at the end of the day. I feel alive on the other side of it. So I'm not hustling for it because it's coming from a place of abundance, not a place of scarcity. It's coming from overflow and alignment. So I really think it's about asking yourself the deep questions to find out, what is it that you want to be doing? What is it that your gifts are? And can you start working within your gifts? That makes all the difference. And it's just that energy that it's riding on. What is the feeling that's driving your actions?
Yeah, that's so good as well. All of this is so good. So for the people listening, especially those who have their own business, and I know that's who you really help, entrepreneurs, what's one small but powerful shift someone can make today if they're ready to stop under-earning and stop leaking money, but don't know where to start?
Yeah, I would say, oh man, this is so good. I think the first step that I always give to people is create a blueprint of what you want. Like, create a vision of what you want. You have to decide, like, let yourself lean into desire. That's step one. Lean into a desire. What do you really want? And getting a blueprint of that. When I say that, I mean, write down what you want. Create some clear, like, goals for yourself. Create a vision for yourself and get that written down. So you may say, I'm under earning, but the question is, well, what do you want to be earning?
Right.
Decide that, right? Decide that first. That's always step one, is just kind of getting crystal clear on what you want. So that I always think of it like this. It's like plugging in a destination into your subconscious. We have to know where we're going in order to get there, right? And if we're just like, oh, this pattern's happening, but we don't actually know where we want to go, it's not probably going to break. So figure out where you want to go. Figure out what you want to be earning. What is the opposite of under earning for you? What does that feel like? Get clear on the feelings. Like, what do you want to be making? How do you want to be feeling about how much you're making? And what do you want your habits around money to be? Right? Because you say, oh, I've been overspending. What do you want your habits? In an ideal world, who would you be with money? Write this stuff down, because once you have that clear vision, it's going to be a lot easier to start heading that way. So I think that's step one. That's where I would go, number one. And that can actually solve a lot, right? Because now we have a goal.
Totally. And then to your earlier point, once you do that, then potentially all of the junk is going to come up, all of the obstacles, and then you can kind of start coaching yourself through those and do the daily practices you talked about earlier based on those obstacles. Because you may say, well, people don't want to pay or whatever it is.
Yep.
You could take each one of those and then really start working through how those thoughts aren't true and how they're not serving you.
And I will say the third piece, right? If you were going to do kind of a 3 steps, 3 of the most important steps is going to be creating that vision, getting clear on that, answer those questions and get it down, starting to reprogram those thoughts. And the third one is taking courageous action. You can't not take action towards it. And guess what? It is scary doing something new. Period.
Yep.
It can feel inspiring too. I say take inspired and courageous action, but I always say this. I'm like, anything you want to manifest is a new reality for yourself. It's something you haven't done before. And so you have to lean into the unknown, and to the ego and to the brain. That is very scary. So don't wait to feel safe doing it. What you want to do is just stretch yourself a little bit. Maybe it's about asking for the number you really want, even though you feel scared. So start inching your way towards it. Start acting towards that thing. And I always like to say, every time you take action, it's like a gift to your future self. So you do have to take courageous and inspired action as well.
Oh, yeah. Because the truth is, and I have to remind myself of this all the time, because sometimes we want things to happen like in a hurry.
Oh, totally.
And I have to remind myself that, okay, what I'm experiencing right now, all of it is based on my past thoughts, my past actions.
Yep.
So if I want something different in the future, I got to start acting differently today. So I'm a Christian, and there's a Bible verse that says, faith without works is dead. You gotta work.
Yep.
You gotta do something.
100%. And pairing the two is where the magic happens. Faith and action, magic. That is where manifestation happens, right? It will come to life and you will create this. But and faith doesn't always feel good either, right? Having faith in the unseen, it is not, it's a pretty word. But it takes a lot of courage to lean into faith and to trust that something new can work that we don't know and we don't have proof of. So that's the magic. And it never really ends, does it? Like we think we're going to get to a place and it's going to feel, and then we're like, oh, we're ready to evolve into the next phase. And that's just the human amazing journey we're on.
So before we wrap up, I'd love for you to speak directly to the woman listening who wants to make more, keep more, and feel safe being wealthy, but still has some blocks going on.
Yeah.
I know we just gave them an amazing exercise. Please, please, please do the things we just said. But what do you want her to know today?
Yeah. I really want her to know that if you want to receive more, you have to get comfortable receiving. You do not have to do this alone. And I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up, is they think I need to force this into existence. I need to make it happen. I need to will it. And it feels so heavy. And my encouragement is always, you don't have to do it alone. Be willing to invest in yourself. Get yourself an amazing coach right here in front of me.
I'm looking at one
that's
myself.
Receiving. Right.
Yes.
That is receiving. Or, lean for me. And you said you're a Christian. I'm very spiritual too. And I know just opening up to the idea that there's forces working on my behalf and I don't have to do this alone. And for me, opening myself up to receiving has made all the difference. And that's my advice to the woman who is that high achiever, who's making a lot of money, wants to really do this, wants to create wealth, wants to step into that, is allow yourself to receive. You do not have to do this alone. Don't be hard on yourself if you haven't done it yet, because guess what? We haven't learned it. We didn't learn it in school. Most people have not learned it. It's just a skill and anyone can learn this skill. So don't be hard on yourself, but invest in that skill. It's absolutely going to pay off.
Absolutely. Especially if you have a business and your business is not where you want it to be. Jamie is your girl. And Jamie, let them know how you can help them.
Yeah. So I have a signature program called the Money Manifestation Movement. It's a 6-month program, and that is where I come in and I coach. It has kind of the feel of, I would say, a mastermind because it has a really strong community component, which I love because it's so helpful to see other people getting coached who are really on a similar journey, and just having that support as a whole and having a container like that can be so healing and so expansive. So that's how I work with people, is in a group coaching container for 6 months called the Money Manifestation Movement. And we really work on healing your relationship with money, completely shifting your relationship with money, allowing yourself to really expand into that next level of wealth and growing your business in a way that's more aligned. So you stop the hustling. So that's really our focus for it. And it's a lot of fun too. That's the other piece I want to share, is like doing work around money can actually be so fun. It does not have to be heavy. Like I used to think it would be heavy. Now look, like, this is the best conversation ever. I love talking about money. I love money. And I never in my life thought I would love that kind of stuff,
Yes.
So it really can be fun. It can be a lot easier than you think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And how can people stay connected to you?
Yeah. So my main social platform is Instagram. So I'm at Jamie Berman _ on Instagram. So come follow me, connect, say hi. I love interacting. And then I also have a podcast, Money Manifestation and Business. And so you can come follow me over there as well.
Awesome. And I will have all of those links in the show notes so you all can stay connected to Jamie. Jamie, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It was such a joy, and I am so grateful. I loved it.
Yes. All right, everyone. You all have a good week. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Hey, if money is the one area of life you just can't seem to figure out, even though you make good money, you're not alone. That's why you're invited to book a complimentary one-to-one money consultation with me, so that we can figure out how to solve your biggest money challenges. To sign up, simply go to jermainefoley.com/consult or check out the show notes. Hope to meet you soon.